It's a matter of record. More than 30 small towns, known as freedmen communities, were formed throughout the Dallas region in the late 1860s following the abolition of slavery. The Joppy community in southern Dallas County is one of them.
Well, it's one of the last of the freedmen's towns. You know, it had survived slavery, it survived Jim Crow, it survived segregation, and it is still there today.
A freedman town is a place where former slaves who had just been freed, they came and they established their own communities.
Freedman's Town was the heart of the black community. So you had the churches, theaters, sanitarium, hospitals, you name it. It was a complete community over there.
With that history, the young people that are in that neighborhood now, they need to know the history. And if they don't know the history and why it needs to be preserved, then it will vanish.
History is very important. I mean, it's very important. It's who we are. And to not preserve who we are is to forget about ourselves. So it's so important that we continue to preserve our history, to educate our young people about, the history, how it has come to be. If you eradicate your history, then you cannot understand your destiny.
Hines was a slave, right? And from my reading of it, he was a slave being held by Miller, slave owner, for somebody in Alabama, as in, this is a valuable asset, hold him in place till after the Civil War, and I'll come and get him. In the meantime, Miller sees that, he can do some real business things. And so he puts Hines in charge of the ferry that runs across. We don't have the bridges at that point to take you across the Trinity River. But that ferry is right there, and Hines is in charge of it. After the Civil War, Hines is still in charge of it. And so whatever deal Hines worked, he worked the deal, all right? And Hines, on top of it, then, has the foresight to say, this is where people need to set up their town.
Now, the Millimore Plantation comes off of Cedar Crest Golf Course, and it went all the way over, my understanding is, to where Bishop College, Paul Quinn College is now. So I can imagine, I can visualize and see our forefathers, men and women and children, coming off of these plantations. They didn't know what they were going to do. They didn't know how to live because they had been conditioned to do as they were told to do. They didn't have to think much. In the early 1870s, when the Texas Houston Central train came through, that is where African American men were solicited, asked to come and work, on the railroad track. So I can see Joppy with, y'all got a train track coming through. You've got the Trinity River coming through, the forest coming through. So you've got a lot of agriculture. You've got your lumber, you've got your river, your water, these streams are all coming into play. And this was a rich area for us, the land. These men were promised, if they stayed and worked for the railroads, laying the tracks is what they actually did, that they would have a home built. So they built what were called shotgun houses. This was a means to, they lived right at the tracks. Most of your shotgun houses are right near trestles, right near the tracks, and it was convenient. Texas, the whole state, is a young state. And so what I mean when I say it's a young state, a lot of our people all of them came in through the Carolinas. That was the first place they brought them in through. And they came from Kentucky into Texas. And a lot of them were on their way, like going headed west. Settlers came in by wagon. But the African Americans came off of plantations. We came off of farms.
Until the mid-50s, Joppy was its own. I think at that point is when the city really starts to see the asset and grab it and say, oh, it's going to be part of Dallas now.
The name Joppy came about because of the community in which it's set. Ran parallel to the railroad in the community, and the street to get to it off of Central Expressway was Jaffee, Jaffee. Well, because of the elders that lived in the community on the east side of the rail track, they definitely dipped snuff, chewed tobacco. So therefore, when they would say Jaffee, it was Joppy. Joppy, I stay in Joppy, and people kept saying that until they come up with Joppy, Joppie, and now it's Joppee. I was born in South Dallas and raised in the South Central Joppy neighborhood. My grandparents moved there in 1940 from South Dallas because of Central Expressway coming through that area. They moved there. They had only 2 rooms with my mother and my uncles. Growing up there, my mother was 4 at the time. She grew up there along with my uncles. We had running water as far as to a well that we had to pump. I grew up pumping water from that well until I was 14. So growing up in that neighborhood with vegetables in the backyard and fruit trees, it was a perfect neighborhood. Even though it's set inside the city, it was still originally Honey Springs, Texas, until a year after I was born. I was born in '54, and they changed Honey Springs, Texas to Dallas, moved it into the Dallas community, or into the city, I should say, in 1955.
I grew up in Joppy from the early 80s. I think we moved here, I may have been about 7, second grade, 7 years old, all the way through high school. 8126 Carbondale was the address, right there at the corner of Carbondale and Solar Lane. Growing up in Joppy, we had our chest stuck out like, you had to earn the right to say you grew up in Joppy. So we was always proud of, growing up in Joppy and what that meant to us as a tight-knit community. For me, Joppy, it grew into a concept, an idea of there's beauty at rock bottom. Ironically, it's a space that we used to walk through. It was called the Bottoms down here in Joppy. And when I say it's beauty in rock bottom, there's a beauty in not knowing that the rest of the world has a certain expectation on life. We were happy with what we had, and for me, it created a foundation of not expecting unrealistic things when I left. So when I left Joppy and went off to college, I had a foundation where I was okay with the foundation that I had, and it created this patience that you need to succeed. And I've seen other people come from other backgrounds or neighborhoods where they had certain things and life went down for them and they didn't know how to operate. So, Joppy taught me how to simplify life and simplify a lot of matters. And what that did was allowed me to be able to handle some of the complex matters too, because I just always break it down to its simplest terms. Through the years, Joppy has always had its own unique voice when it needs something. And we've had champions in Joppy, like I remember Miss Charlie May.
Charlie May was a lifetime resident of Joppy, and she was a pioneer, a leader. She really loved the community, and she made sure that the kids out here had somewhere to go. They didn't have a playground, so everything they did, they would have to leave Joppy to go outside of Joppy to do it. And she would put them all in a station wagon and take them to whatever location they need to go and bring them back. And she was a great leader, and she instilled in us to be a great leader.
She spent her own money in getting what I would say our first kind of community center the neighborhood nest. That was for our children when they would get out of school to come for after school tutoring, special events during the holidays, the hay rides in conjunction with the Buffalo Soldiers, the Buffalo Soldiers Field, which is 22 acres that was purchased for $1 for 100 years. She was truly a humanitarian. Growing up Joplin means to me several great memories. I was not born here, but I got here at 7 months years old. I got here as quick as I could, get my little red wagon hooked up, and I came to Joplin. And it means to me, like I said, memories like my house was right down the street from my church, walking to church, walking to Sunday school. On Friday evenings, you often would hear from neighbors' houses, the blues going on Friday evenings and fish frying. Me getting my hair pressed in the kitchen like often little African-American girls do on Friday evenings, getting ready for the weekend. It meant me making new friends in the community. Some of the memories I do have is that Bonham and Bailey Circus would come down the railroad track here in the Joplin area. And we were able to go to the corner and at least look at the animals. You know, my parents were older, so therefore I didn't really do a whole lot no more than go to school and go to church. And that was a good thing to do. But, you know, to be able to go up there and see actual tigers and elephants and all that kind of stuff with the Bonham and Bailey. Sometimes they would even port here. On our railroad tracks, they would actually take the cars off and they would actually be here in our area because the circus was, you know, right downtown. So those are just some of the memories, you know, that I do have, you know, here in the Joplin area.
I grew up in Joplin in the 70s. I felt safe. Yeah, it's like a cocoon, I suppose, if I had to describe it. Things that were going on in the outside of Joplin, we didn't know a lot about. It was safe. It was safe. There were certain streets we didn't go down, you know, but for the most part, it was safe. It was community. It was family. The activities, I mainly remember the bookmobile when it would come to town, would come to Joplin. And it may have come, I'm not sure if it came twice a month or once a month, but it was so exciting because I love to read. And when it came, I would get all these books. And with the books, I was able just to leave Joplin. And I was just all over the world with my books. And so that was my main activity, that bookmobile and, you know, playing with my friends. But it was limited to play with them. I was the first Black kid in around 67 that integrated Linfield Elementary School. Didn't think anything of it, really didn't know, but I was the first Black kid to go there. And I do recall probably shortly after I ended up going back to Melissa Pierce.
Melissa Pierce was a child of a former slave, and she and the founder of the South Central Civic League, Miss Laura Bell Foster, they were advocates for getting a school building in the Joplin community. And during that time, it was segregated. They kept going to the Wilmer Hutchins Independent School District asking, please put a school out because the children were being bused all over. Month after month, they couldn't even attend the meetings. They had to sit outside. They couldn't go inside the building. So finally, they told them, the Independent School District told Miss Melissa Pierce that if we'll build you a school, if you have the land. Well, like I tell people, she owned half of Joplin almost, and so she donated the land, and they named the school after her.
People were coming from the Alta Mesa area, Floral Gardens that they call Stewart Farm area. And some of them came from Bishop Heights area until they built schools over into that area. But Miss Melissa Pierce saw that there was a need for not only there being a school in that neighborhood, but we were the ones that only had a football field and baseball diamond. And so therefore, the kids no longer had to go to another neighborhood. As my mother and my uncles did, they had to walk across the Trinity River on the railroad tracks to South Dallas to go to Lincoln High School. And so we were able to have a school in the neighborhood and no one had to walk the dangerous railroad tracks anymore. She was definitely a legacy. And I'm praying that even though the school no longer exists, that they make the historical marker there eventually so that she would be recognized. But her face hung on a portrait in that school as long as it was open. The South Central Civic League was formed and founded by my grandmother, Laura Bell Foster, in her living room, and it was established October 3rd, 1943. Since she was on the board of directors with the Chamber of Commerce for Colored People, she was able to get the charter for the South Central Civic League under its auspices, and it was chartered in October 3rd, 1948. It is the longest and oldest standing organization in that neighborhood who always petitioned the city for different things as far as the running water into the house, gas lines coming in to the house because there was butane gas then. So therefore, we need this to be a reality as far as that community continue to thrive and the city of Dallas not overlooking us. But we definitely need to continue to fight for our community to make certain that what Laura Bell Foster and her husband was doing, P.H. Foster, that we get the things that they strive for through petitions, through speaking through the city council. So when she formulated this, it was definitely for the community to grow and exist into where it is now.
The relationship, when I moved in here in 2006, I didn't know the community, I didn't know the history. But as of 2021, I enjoy living in Joppy. It's my life. I'm a retire here. I'm gonna leave this world living in Joppy. But I like the leadership has really funded again for we can have more power and be a force with reckon.
I would say that growing up Joppy means that I'm a part of a legacy here, being fifth generation, ton of, family that's been here, and we've just kind of all grown together and left and come back. But at the end of the day, Joppy is still always home. My great-great-grandmother who built several houses out here for, generations of our family to come in, and whenever we needed to come back, we could always come back. So to honor her.
Rosalie Bosch Jackson was my grandmother that we call Big Mama. She was a businesswoman, she was an entrepreneur, she was a builder. She built homes out in Joppy.
What I would hope to do, because I love history, I would love to see even like the Melissa Pierce Center, a part of that or a portion of it have some sort of like timeline of Joppy's history, so that, people that are, not even from Joppy, but even people that don't know about the history, that they can come and take a look and see all of the rich history that Joppy has. Because for a while I didn't know all of that history. I knew my family's history, but I didn't know, that it was here since, 1872. That's incredible to be just a part of that, and I have a legacy here, and that means the world to me.
History is very important. I mean, it's very important. It's who we are. And to not preserve who we are is to forget about ourselves. So it's so important that we continue to preserve our history, to educate our young people about, the history, how it has come to be. History is important because it's a part of who you are. It is your makeup, it is your DNA. And so therefore I applaud Joppy and had the opportunity to be a part and to helping Joppy obtain the historical markers and all those things. And if I can digress just for a minute, just to be able to reflect back, even learning part about the history and the culture and some of the artifacts that were presented, I mean, it's just rich and lucrative in history. So again, I applaud those efforts. I think we need to continue to do all what is necessary to preserve history so that we can better understand our future.
The different things that I've seen to change within the Joppy community has to do a lot with the population itself of different cultures being brought into Joppy. there is a greater deal of pride in the community for how things are looking, portrayed from outside as well as within, because you've got to have pride in where you live, pride in the surrounding areas, and really care. And so there seems to be a great deal of pride that has been taking place over the course of years as things have changed, new individuals have been brought into the community. Leadership has now galvanized itself in such a way that individuals now know who to go to and have a confidence that things are going to take place.
Within the community, the changes since I moved here, we have more houses. It's become more diverse, families from different nationalities. The communication amongst the neighborhood has greatly improved. We're also more aware things that the city has planned or has in the works for Joppy and how it will affect us.
A Freedmanstown has to be preserved for what it is. And we have to, again, make sure that there's a pride that exists and there's an asset that we highlight from the city. At the same token, there has been a fight for justice, a fight against injustice. And, through a fight for civil rights, many leaders have fought for equality, have fought for inclusion. And so, in 2025, I would like to see that diversity continues. That diversity is not something to me that should diminish the historical significance. In fact, it should help show the progress of Full Circle on the work that has been done by all of the pioneers in the movement to go from a point in time where we had a community that was carved out and basically designated only for one particular race, to be now a sustainable, mixed, diverse community that is coexisting.
I like to call Joppy a cosmopolitan community now because we have so many different ethnicities there. And so it's no longer a predominantly Black community. And so envisioning Joppy now is, like I said, just having a cosmopolitan of people. We're working on the Melissa Pierce building, which is going to be a state-of-the-art multi-purpose center, facilitating all type of purposes. There are different developers that are coming in, and that's why I've kind of been adamant about the stabilization overlay, because we understand what gentrification is and we don't welcome it, but we're just trying to, hold on and preserve as much as we can while we can.
The significance of preserving it, of people who do not know their history. First of all, you have to realize that this is rich ground that you all are on, because you have the Trinity River here, and everyone in Dallas County gets their water through the Trinity, basically. The students, the children, the adults, the parents. Why is it significant? There is no other Freedmantown, to my knowledge, that is still intact. This community is still here. It is still intact. It is very imperative that the young adults keep this community intact and they invest in their parents' homes, that they do not sell them because they don't have the money for taxes. It is imperative. People will be coming into this community because you have a historical marker. So that lets me know it's historic, and it was built created in the 1800s. So you all definitely don't need to let investors come in and buy out, because sometimes people don't know what they have until they have sold it.
We want to really look at Honey Springs branch, the way the land is formed, that Honey Springs branch comes right in the middle of Joppy and kind of gives you a south Joppy and a north Joppy, even, and that bridge connects, and it means so much in that kind of way. I think it connects it to the rest of Oak Cliff too. That railroad makes you think it ends right there, but it doesn't. Honey Springs Branch go way off into the west, all right? So it's draining all that into the Trinity River right there. What also becomes important there is the Trinity River now has become the front door for Dallas, you know, and so everybody's looking at Joppy, everybody's looking at all this, and who has the say is those people who can define this area the best.
I would like to see John B continuously to grow. And notice I'm using that term, continuously to grow. So whatever that is as relates to infrastructure or more homes that will be built that will continue to add value to our community, I am all for it. I'm all for economic development. I'm all for growth, and not only just infrastructural growth, but growth within our people.
Some changes that I would like to see within the community would be more togetherness, trying to get people out of, just a 75216 zip code, trying to get them into more things, positive things, like, I don't know, cooking classes or drawing classes or something like that.
I would like to see opportunities for even the children that are here, for them to be able to learn different trades and just different things, a community center. That is huge, because as a kid, you need that boys club or community center or something so that you could go play sports or participate in art activities. Just, there's just so much that we didn't have growing up out here.
What we already see is leadership passed down by generation. And that's something that is an asset in itself. When we have a community that's willing to pass the baton, that's not in fear of being pushed out like a lot of the communities in South Dallas, we already have overcome a huge battle that a lot of other neighborhoods are having to overcome. And so being able to capitalize on the leadership that exists there and those assets that exist in generational involvement is something that I want to continue to be a part of as a representative with the city, and make sure that the direction that we go with Joppy is one that's led by the community, and one that is a vision that is going to be something that the next generation that the baton will be passed to is going to be proud of.
Changes that we're seeing daily, that we're seeing monthly, that we're seeing yearly is going to benefit the community. And as I said that about Tony, the late Toni Morrison a while ago, if there's a book that you want to read and has not been written yet, then you must write it. So that's what we're doing today. We are writing our book, and my hope and prayer and desire is that generations from now will say, Joppy, whether it's our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our great-great-great-greats or whatever, that they would say, Joppy, I want to know about that. And they can pick up a book and they can read about the Joppa community. Then they will understand what we always have said, we're Joppa strong and we're Joppa proud.
There are times in our life we find where alone we bear can't get lost, but in our history over a century where life grows, one must know we are Joppa proud, Joppa strong, Joppa proud. We are one, Joppa proud, Joppa strong, Joppa proud. We are one.
Joppy, 150 Years of Resiliency, was filmed out of necessity, the need to elevate, educate, and empower our people. No longer could we sit back and allow mainstream media to define who we are or Joppy through their eyes. It's called perspective, and although one is entitled to their own, it doesn't make it the truth. We have our own stories through generations past, and today we have successfully rewritten the narrative. We have preserved our history, embraced the present, and preparing for our future. As we celebrate, we must not forget pioneers before us: Henry Kritz Hines, Melissa Pierce, P.H. and Laura Bell Foster, Rosa Bosch Jackson, Charlie Mae Jackson, Vera Sanders, and Livy Dibbles. They epitomize resiliency and have paved the way for us to be here today. Some people make excuses and others make it happen. Which one are you? In this new season, be the change that you wish to see. Whether you spell Joppy, Joppa, Joppie, Joppy, Joppee, we are one, and together we're stronger. Congratulations, Joppy, on 150 years. We're Joppy proud and Joppy strong.